Hello and welcome. Today's guest is recognized by Forbes as a top international DJ who tours the world creating electric atmospheres with some of the biggest names in the industry. Performing at some of the most iconic venues, he has headlined festivals with major acts including Skrillex, Empire of the Sun, Kid Cudi, Snoop Dogg, and Avicii. As a headline entertainer for elite entrepreneurial conferences, he has performed for the world's most powerful leaders. He is one of the few DJs invited to play on Necker Island, the home of Sir Richard Branson, and he is the only DJ to have hosted a rave on Antarctica. Beyond being a globally recognized DJ, he is a #1 international best-selling author, speaker, and CEO of Evolved Podcasting. He is also the founder of The Foundlings, a nonprofit organization that brings educational and creative learning platforms to orphans in the Philippines to help them live meaningful and economically self-sufficient lives. Please welcome to the show, Sammy Shoebox Moses Taggett. Welcome, Sammy. It's great to have you here.
That intro was amazing. It was one of those times where you kind of hear it and you go, wow, that person's busy. That person's doing stuff. And then you realize, whoa, that's me. That was a great. Thank you so much for the beautiful intro. And it's so good to see you.
So good to see you. Now, you go by Shoebox Moses, and that is certainly a unique moniker. So tell us a little bit about that. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it is a very unique moniker. It was a moniker that was given to me by some of my favorite friends and colleagues in the entrepreneurial space. And it came from a self-discovery. So I went back to my orphanage in the Philippines. It was 6 years ago now. And on this pilgrimage to find some roots, I've always wanted to go back to my country. And I got an opportunity to go find out where I was from, this orphanage in Quezon City. It's called the RSS, and it is nestled right in the middle of the bustling city of Quezon. Right before I left, I was in Denver DJing, doing all the things. And Ellie, I had this moment where I called my mom, and it was this huge turning point for me because she'd gifted me some papers about my story and like where I'd been from, and I'd never looked at them. I just kind of brushed them off. And I had this opportunity to dig into what these papers said, and it was my adoption papers. And as I was reading through them, I was going through all the notes that they had left, and there was this one part that said baby was left in a shoebox placed in a dumpster. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been a thrown away baby. So when that hit me, I was living in Denver at the time, and my whole world came cascading down on me. I felt all the emotions. I felt guilt for how reckless I'd been in my life. I felt imposter syndrome for being able to go and play on these amazing stages for the world's most elite people. And then I felt like this shame around like what I was doing and why I got so lucky, and just all the emotions. And then there's a huge piece of gratitude around how lucky I really was. And so when I went to the Philippines, I got to see my orphanage for the first time, and I got to see the kids, and I got to see that story. They told me, yeah, that was you. You were one of the shoebox babies. And so that was this trip that really like catalyzed how crazy that my existence and my sheer miracle of life really was. And so I came back with that knowing, and hot off the heels of that, I was going to Necker Island to DJ for Richard Branson and his friends. They're the Maverick 1000s. It's Sophia and Yannick, and they have this incredible group of entrepreneurs. And what they do is they'll go to these extravagant places. They're the ones that took me to Antarctica last month. They take me to Necker Island. They take me all over the world to play these incredible shows. And so when I got there, there's a piece of me that was just a little off. They were like, "You okay? What's going on?" And I let them know my story. And it was over the process of a few other shows with them they're like, well, what do you want to do with this story? Like, you're our guy. And I was like, well, I want to go back. I want to go change the future for some of these kids. And they just, yeah, they took it all in with me, and they're like, well, you're like Moses. You're like our little shoebox Moses. And so the name was birthed from that part. And when we kind of conceptualized it, and one of my managers that was managing me at the time, he was like, you are definitely shoebox Moses. Lead us to the promised land. Show us how that works. And so that name started to stick, and it started to become this funny thing that I would just throw out there casually. And I want to go by shoebox Moses. I said this 5 years ago. And the thing that really started to resonate with me and the power of it was younger DJs and folks that were just kind of coming up started to like take that in. And they started to hear the name, and they'd ask me, how did you get through so much pain? Like, you were thrown away, you were discarded. Like, what does that mean to get through that for you? Like, how did you do this, and how did you navigate that? How do you still navigate pain and rejection? And so I became a different person from that. And so that identity started to take on its own thing for me. So Shoebox Moses, was definitely birthed out of a really, seemingly dark place, but it's really carried me into these incredible spots with a sense of purpose and a whole new vision of who I can reach as an entertainer. So that's where it came from. And I still think it's a weird name, but I love it. I just love it.
It's so powerful. It's so profound. And for me, knowing your story, when I hear Shoebox Moses, to me, it's taking your power back. To me, it's reclaiming a part of you. So for me, that's the power that I see in it, is you standing in all your power, in this glory of acceptance and empowerment. And it's the way that you then show up in the world as triumphant, as celebration, as embracing of life and the miracle that you are, and how you can use music to uplift, to empower, to celebrate, to allow others in your communities, others in your presence, to stand in their joy and their essence. So as you're reclaiming your essence and standing in this power, then you're empowering so many others to do the same. It's really amazing and profound.
Oh, I love that. We call that raising the vibe.
Yes.
We raise the vibe where we go, and it gets to be much more than music for us, for sure. So music is the medium. I often wonder why I learned to do skill sets in music, and why I wanted to become a podcast creator, and why I wanted to, DJ and play the guitar. I started as a guitarist and a musician, and that all stemmed from this space that you were just mentioning. And I've learned this through a lot of work, but that all came from a space of deep connecting. Like, I wanted to connect with people so much. And I was, when I was younger, I'd act out and I would lie about things, and I would just be something, so over the top. My energy was so crazy because I didn't want people to leave me. I had like this intense fear, Ellie, that people would just leave me and abandon me again. And so I would just like try and do these things. And, a lot of it worked. A lot of it was just completely obnoxious. And I'm sure, like, my friends that grew up with me, I still have a whole myriad of friends that I've had since I was in second and third grade. And we all just chuckle that I've made a profession out of just being just me, and I'm like, oh, that's so true. It really has come full circle. But music and raising the vibe and becoming and embodying energy like that to just go out, it's beyond the music. It's so much deeper than the music. It's that energetic frequency. It's that energetic blanket that we are able to put around people. And it all comes from that dark space where I'm like, you know what? I never want to be left again. And as I've worked through that trauma, now I realize that that's like the most powerful connecting thing that I've been able to do, is take people and teach them how to do that for themselves. And in essence, I've let go of having to be connected to people. I'm so connected to myself and I'm so connected to source. I don't feel the need to be like, oh my gosh, I hope you love me. Because now I know that I love myself and
Yeah.
that I'm never alone. And then through that, I've been like, whoa, I'm connecting with so many more people now because of this ability to do that. And the ancillary, the beautiful part of it, the side vignette for me is that I did build these amazing crafts that the world needs and seeks me for. And that is, I just did it backwards. I just got really lucky. That came through this deep realization of some of the crazy things that you do as a DJ. You just look back and you see 10, 20,000 people and you're like, this is insane. Like, this is insane that this is what we're doing. You stand on the stage, you look at the sea of people, and it doesn't even look real. And you get the sense, you drop a beat in a place like Red Rocks, or you sing a note up this amazing amphitheater, and you get that sense like, wow, that's amazing that you can take this little seed, this little idea that I had to become a DJ a long time ago, in the bathroom. I actually learned from DJs after having a job in a nightclub bathroom. I mean, it was crazy the amount of twists and turns it took for me to get to where I'm at. And you just see that resonate. And so you think once you let go, and it's interesting, this line of thought I'm having, but once you let go of being so needed to be connected to them, like to have the approval, it just skyrockets for you. And then you reach those crazy multitudes. And that's been, as you and I met, that was like this evolution I was coming through. This was like the thing that was like really birthing through me, is like this true acceptance of self and letting go of ego and like pushing through shadows, but doing it with a lot more intention. And then I think that's, ultimately what drew me in through our connections, right?
Yeah. And I think that is so incredibly powerful, that when you learned to love yourself and then showed up as you, showed up as the full embodiment of you, in the full essence of you, that's when the resonance truly happened. When you were able to let go of the need to be seen as something other than yourself, when you let go of the need for approval
Mm-hmm.
and came home to yourself in that true essence,
Yeah.
the response, how the universe and others and audiences rallied around you to celebrate this incredible essence that is you. And I think if more people did that, right? It's a fear that people have. You were not alone in that fear. You were not alone in that, the fear of abandonment. You're not alone in the feeling of needing to be seen or accepted, for this image. So what an incredible example, again, Moses, to which is why your name is just so perfect, to lead by example, to lead from this place of authenticity and vulnerability and celebration and fully aligned as you, to
Mm.
then use music as your medium to help unlock that essence in others. So incredibly powerful.
Well, it is so incredibly fun. Let's like be very honest. It's insanely fun to do that. Like making people shake their rumps and get down and just like lose their minds is so fun. Like the tenets of all my companies and tenets of all the things that I do, make no doubt about it. We have insane amounts of fun. That's our company culture. It's passion, fun, and hard work. Those are our three things. And I think I stumbled onto a couple like really fun theories that I've been using. And I use this term ikigai, which is a Japanese term for like a way of life. And we found that if you find what your ikigai is, like what you're passionate about, what you truly would just do for free, what the world really needs of you, which ultimately means like what they would really pay you for. And then what you're the best at, if you can kind of get that all merged into one spot, and then what you love the best, right? So what you love to do the most, what you're actually the best at is another piece in there, what the world really needs and what they'd pay you for. And then just merging those together. It's just like this convergence. And I've pushed through so many times where I may not have been like the best DJ, but I was the best connector. Or I may not have been the best guitarist, but I had the most fun. And it just turns into this beautiful, cycle of just people recognizing that. And if people could, like you're saying, if they could just sense that, once you have true love of self, then the world recognizes you. But I would love to piggyback on that and say, if you could really work to add into that love of self, have fun learning to love yourself, laugh at yourself as much as you are hard on yourself, and listen to what you're telling you. Like, would you talk to a toddler the way that you talk to yourself? Are you gentle with yourself? Do you love how your communication is? Because that, for me, for years, was just insanely rough on myself, and it was hard for me to grow, and it was hard for me to kind of evolve into this new spot. And that is something that I wish everybody to experience, as you were saying, is just to have a moment. Maybe it doesn't last all the time, maybe it's not always there, but just to have that moment where you're like, wow, I really love myself. I love all my flaws, I love all the craziness, I love all the breaking points. I even love those actually the most, right? So I love that you say that, because it's so hard to just move past your day and move into the next week. And, all of a sudden you're like, did I nurture myself? Am I nurturing what am I calling the best version of me in, like, to this circumstance or to this job? The worst job I ever had was working in a nightclub bathroom. And I always bring this up because it just really shows that my love of self, I had to find that there. And I remember looking in the mirror. I was like, Ellie, I was looking in the mirror, and you can see this dude's feet underneath the stall behind me, and you can hear his business. And I'm just like, this is where I'm at. I love myself. I love that this is where I'm at right now. I don't like it, but I love myself. Let's just go with it. Just do this thing. And I really had no choice. So there was only one way to really look up from there. And it was that moment, that night, working in the bathroom at a nightclub. I ended up making over $300, which was monumental for me at the time. And that was the amount I needed to, like, feed myself. That was the amount of money I needed to, like, pay some of the bills I needed to do. It was the thing that started me. And I had a huge fire. I had burned my buddy's house down. I mean, it was a mess. I was like, what in God's name am I going to do? It was from that point where I started hearing the music, and the music, like, I was literally hearing the music because the DJs were outside the door of this bathroom. And so I could go outside and hear those DJs. And I knew that from this station, I could get from here to there. I just had to figure out the pieces. And those pieces were me loving myself, making that tip money to go buy a gift for these DJs, which was a shot. And I would take that to them. They would teach me this skill set. That skill set would turn into this, and that would lead to this conversation that we're having right now. It's just nuts. It's just nuts to me. And it just blows my mind with, and I'm not unique in this. We all have those crazy stories that have got us. Your story is insane.
Yeah, it's the twists and turns of life, right? It's the making a decision. It's the perspective that you hold and the story that you tell yourself. So here you're working in the nightclub bathroom.
Oh,
and it's just, you've just had this fire. You're kind of at a pretty low point in your journey, and you chose to see it as an opportunity. You chose to see it as, wow, I can hear that music. That's moving my spirit. I'm having fun. I'm now in proximity to these people that I can learn from. I'm going to get into closer proximity. So I'm going to have fun in the bathroom. I'm going to be a great bathroom attendant. I'm going to get these tips. And then I'm going to use the tips to buy the shot for the DJs so that they'll teach me. I mean, that's taking action. That's embodying the possibility.
Yeah.
Right? What can come from this?
And it's all 2020 looking backwards. You never connect the dots looking forwards. None of that was pre-planned. I mean, that was just like what was unfolding. I had no options. God knows I didn't want to just stay in there. I'd make money. I was like, I gotta get out of here. That was my only thing. And I knew I was an entertainer. I knew I needed to get from where I was to this thing to this stage. I didn't know it was going to be a DJ. I was just watching them have the most fun. And there was been that transition where music had gone from vinyl into this digital realm, and I could, take them suggestions. I could put stuff on a USB stick. USB sticks were like $60 for like a 2 gig USB stick at the time too. I mean, like saving money for those stupid things was nuts. And so I put my 10 songs on there, and I could take them up there, and sometimes they would just, they didn't even play them. And then there's that night that I had an opportunity to play for a DJ who couldn't play, and I got to just step into that spotlight, that one moment that I think we overlook sometimes. Like, I didn't know this was my moment. And then there was a night that it was a Friday night that he couldn't play, and I was able to do that. And I remember watching the dance floor go. And then I got cornered by a bunch of promoters at the end of the night, asked me why I was still in the bathroom. I actually thought they were going to fire me. And it was great because they were nudging me. It was really cool. They were just encouraging me to get out, and they were introducing me to people that could help me with my career. And it was in those moments, I have a bunch of those. I think we all do, especially if you take some time and you look back, where you see that you really did shine. You just didn't know you were shining at the time.
Yeah, and it's the moment where all of that preparation that you did behind the scenes, the vision, the practice, all of the work that you put in that nobody knew you were doing, prepared you for that moment to be able to seize the opportunity and shine. It's
Yeah.
that work that you did in private that then all of a sudden, when the opportunity arose, you were prepared, you were able to step in and do what it is that you had dreamed of, that you had prepared for. So, there's a saying that you're often rewarded in public for what you did in private.
Totally.
It's that moment of preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a true definition of luck right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you put in the work so that you were prepared when the opportunity arose. Let's circle back to something that you said at the beginning of this, which is when those younger generations are asking you your tips for resiliency, your tips for making shifts. What do you tell them? What advice do you give them?
The first piece of advice I usually give them, that I would give myself 10 years ago, is always go easy. This is life. Life is not always going to be easy, but go easy on yourself. And then the second piece is, it's not how, but who. Who else has done this? Who else has really shown the light on something that you love to do? Who is somebody that you could really emulate? And it's just a modeling exercise that I do. And, sometimes it's me. Most of the time it's not. They're like, oh, yeah, I think that person has done it. And then we dig into this story of like, okay, well, do you think that they went through some hardships? Do you think that that is something that they had to rise above? And it's always a resounding, yeah, of course they did. But those are the main things. I really just help them understand, like, it's not how, but who. Who else can you learn from? And right now, because of the mediums, because of like the Instagram and all of the TikToks and all of that, my third piece of advice is I get them very conscious of what they're putting in their minds, conscious of what they're seeing, conscious of what threads that they're getting stuck in, because the algorithms are there to stick you pretty good. And so I tell them, if we're going to use this technology and embrace it and embrace what we call the convergence, use it to your strength. Start looking at the things that empower you. Start looking at the things that teach you. Start looking at the things that lift you up. If you're starting to watch threads and you're starting to see things that don't make you feel good, like you're less than, like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, he's so handsome. Oh my gosh, he's so rich. You need to shift your focus. Just finding people that you like can get sticky. You got to find the thread that empowers you. So those are the things that I really work with. Not just students, but myself in general. Like I noticed that my thread of Instagram and TikTok, it went from like bubbly butt dancing chicks at festivals to now I'm looking, especially after Antarctica, new ways to seed earth, new ways to clean the water, new ways to use, like, there's like these really amazing compost things that I order that turn like everything into dirt. Like changing your narrative and changing your focus and using technology to do that with you is something that's so powerful and so overlooked. Setting reminders on our devices that we're constantly looking at. Hey, you're a king. Hey, you are brilliant. Hey, you are loved. You are an amazing human. You can do this. I am enough. Those are the reminders you can set yourself daily. If we're going to use this stuff, use it and don't let it use you. So those are like the things that I really work with constantly with myself and always with the folks that I'm working with.
I love that. Stand guard at the gate of your mind, right? Watch your intake. We watch what we put in our bodies. We're conscious of what we eat. So watch what we feed our mind. I love your point. It's an amazing reminder. Use technology. Don't let technology use you. So how intentional are you being? And I love your reminder also that if you're scrolling Instagram, if you're scrolling Facebook or any, TikTok or any of the mediums, and you feel worse after you're scrolling than you did before, then you have the power to unfollow. You have the power to change who you follow or what you are consuming.
Ingest. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not beholden to this thing. I mean, they did do a pretty insidious thing by like going, oh, you know what? If we make this thing and it drips dopamine constantly, they will give us all our information. They will give it to you. We've done that. That's fine. We can't beat that. I mean, this is something that we have to use. This is something we have to use. This internet is amazing, and people have to take the power back. You cannot let it control you. And it's so funny. I talk to people all the time. They're like, I had to get rid of Instagram. I was like, why? You have to get rid of it? What are you talking about? Like, it's a window into amazing opportunities. You have to control yourself. Like I have all those things and I look at them like 3 or 4 times a day, but I look at them when I want to learn something or if I want to relax and just like look at some beautiful scenery. I love looking at surfing videos. I love learning from those things. I love looking at beautiful humans doing beautiful, crazy things. That's amazing. And if you, like I said, if you use it properly, and don't let it use you, like we were saying, it's an incredible tool. And so when young people go, what do you do to get through all those things? You control the controllables. And that first
Wait. That's a mic drop moment. Say that again.
Control the controllables. You
Absolutely.
have the power to control the first thing that goes in your mind, the first words that come out of your mouth, the first thought that comes into your head when you wake up in the morning. Is it a, hey, where's my phone? Or is it a, hey, I'm so thankful for my breath. I'm so thankful that I've got a bed. I'm so thankful that I'm going to go have some toast. Or is it, oh my gosh, I wonder what the Kardashians did today. Or, oh my gosh, what's on TikTok? That is real.
Yeah.
They got you. They got you, but you can control that. You can control what you're seeing. You can control what you're saying, and you can control what you're thinking when you take those in tandem. It seems like basic, but common knowledge is not common practice. We get that. You just have to get it and start practicing it. Get in the habit of controlling the controllables, and shit will be so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very practical advice from a DJ. Just control the controllables, guys. Whenever my people are like, oh my God, everything is going crazy. Like, what do I do? Like, the mix is going off the rails. Like, control the controllables. What do you see? Oh, bring that volume down. Stop that track. What can you control? They're like, oh, this one thing at a time. Stop. Control the controllables. They're like, okay, got it.
It's empowering when you take your power back. I know so many people over the course of the last 2 years in particular have felt like they have no control. The world is rapidly changing, rules are changing constantly. They feel uncertain. And in that feeling of uncertainty often comes analysis paralysis, often comes feeling frozen, then comes the overwhelm, and then the snowball where the walls are caving in. And so I love, love, love that is a writer downer. That is a sticky noter. If you're a fan of the sticky notes, write down control the controllables and put that sticky note on your computer, put that sticky note next to the bed, put that sticky note on the bathroom mirror, anywhere that you need to see it, anywhere that you're going to spend time. That alone will be a game changer. When you are feeling out of control, when you are feeling like the world is caving in, when you feel like you're going down that rabbit hole, what an incredible gift. Control the controllable. Ask yourself one question. What can I control? What can I do right now? I can control my thoughts. I can control my feelings. I can control my actions. I can control the books I'm reading. I can control the videos I'm watching. I can control the social media I'm consuming. Such an incredibly powerful reminder, Sammy. Thank you for
Yeah,
that. Is
pleasure.
an easy to implement resource that everyone has access to. So you give so much to the world. You give so much energy to your clients and your students and to audiences of tens of thousands of people. What do you do to recharge your own batteries? What do you do to refuel and re energize yourself so that you can show up fully as you?
Yeah, such a good question, and it was a question I for sure had to ask myself because there was a lot of nights that were me sitting upright, with the computer or whatever I was doing and just like sleeping, which is not the recharge that we're talking about. And I have friends that have snapped tons of pictures of me at like festivals and stuff like that, just sitting out. And one of the things that I found that has really helped me recharge on a soul level is learning how to go still and meditate and to bring that moment. And I learned a really cool 4 phase meditation. It's such a good one, but it's just 4 parts that are 5 minutes each, but it helps me get centered. It helps me get grateful for the things I have, and then to pre-frame what I'm really trying to vision for the next part of myself. And then it opens up my mind to what we call cosmic Google. So it's like it's a 4 little phase meditation that I've done. And that has been wildly effective. And it just is, I think it's really useful for me to do that. And then there's a piece in there as well as going through those 4 phases where I breathe, where I just like hold it, slow the F down, and then recharge. But the meditation, that has been one of the most powerful things for realigning myself and getting grounded. Along with meditation, I really did find some profound effects in sleep. Like I was not sleeping for a long time, but man, sleep was so powerful. I was missing out on that. I was under that whole pretense that we'll sleep when we're dead, but you're going to be dead a lot quicker if you don't get some proper sleep, especially with the things that we're doing. Like just get some good sleep. It was a thing. But then the other thing that I do is then you can see around me is I have a ton of things that keep me grounded to youthful energy for myself. Whatever that is for you, it's probably different. But for me, I've got a skateboard over there. I've got surfboards hanging from the wall. I've got guitars on this side. I've got pianos and DJ gear. And so, I'm not trying to, kick 720s and hit half pipes, but I do love moving my body, staying young, and being surrounded by some of my favorite people. And a lot of times the people have nothing to do with music. They have nothing to do with some of the other things that I'm fully engulfed in. And I just love human connection. But I'm always attracting amazing humans around me. And it's those kind of tenets between the meditation, some good sleep, keeping fun, youthful, energetic things around me, and a nice tribe. That little 5 prong approach seems to really keep me energized. And I have a boundless amount of energy. A lot of the folks that are younger than me, they're like, we don't know where you're getting that. Like, what are you plugged into? And I think that answer comes from the humble beginnings. Like,
Yeah.
what charges you? I'm so thankful for this life that I live that I'm like a voracious consumer of information and experience and people. And so those things are really what I've noticed keep a lot of energy going for me. But like between meditation, good sleep, fun toys, and good people, I mean, it's all you need, really. That's all we need.
That is an incredible recipe for an amazing life.
Well, I think too, like, I think it was Tony Robbins or somebody I was talking to. He's like, "What are your recipes for life? What do you do? What's going to, we have a recipe for your favorite quiche. You have a recipe for your favorite dish. What is your recipe for a healthy life?" And if for me, like keeping things on track, it's gonna be stillness, then it's gonna be sleep, and it's going to be useful fun, and then it's going to be friends and experiences. And when that was my recipe, and then I tried to kind of bake in how do I create an environment around that. Like right now, the employees that I've garnered, they're like really tight knit family. Like we're learning things together, we're experiencing things together. Half the time the team and I will go out, we have a board meeting, a literal, we're on a surfboard having a board meeting, and we're not at the level where it's like, if we have a board meeting out there and talk about work, we're going to die. But we're like, okay, catch this wave and then let's figure out what we're going to do. That to me is how you should live life. You should totally live life that way. And my girlfriend, we do the same thing. It's like, what are we doing when it comes to like what's the recipe for the relationship? What are the things that we need to do to bake in? Everything has a recipe. And if you just look at it and kind of keep it, in that frame, for me, it was a lot easier because before I just was all over the place until somebody told me, like, what are your recipes? What is your recipe for success? And like a recipe for a morning routine. Instead of getting a phone, instead of those things, it's like 3 things I'm thankful for, some breathing and some stretching. That's all you need to do. It's a simple recipe. What are you thankful for? Get some breath in, stretch your body a little bit. And then also water, like stretching and water, the same thing. It's all
Yeah.
recipes.
Yeah. I love that framework. I love the framework of be intentional. I think it all goes together with what we've talked about of control the controllables, right? Be
Mhm.
intentional. You get to choose, you get to decide, and what's your recipe. So you can be intentional about the ingredients you're putting in your recipes,
For sure.
and you get to control those ingredients. You get to control those ingredients. So I think the framework, looking at it as a recipe, is a very doable, incredibly clear, and helpful tool that our audience can use. What's your recipe? What's your recipe for life? What's your recipe for health? What's your recipe for relationships? What's your recipe for success? What's your recipe for resilience? What's your recipe for communication? It's applicable to all aspects of life. So thank you for that
Yeah,
framework.
sure. And you also got to know what your bad recipes are too. Like, oh yeah, you're not going to put like a cup of sugar in a certain thing. There's other things that you also need to know. Like, we don't mix those. Those things don't go together. Like that's the other part. Like, I think in the personal development space that I've been in, one of the biggest leaps I had too in personal development was learning what I should not be doing and like recognizing that. Like one of the things that I learned in my company is I have a whole list of I should not be doing things, right? This is like if I'm doing audiograms or if I'm like doing minor edits or if I'm doing accounting or if I'm doing planning, oh God, if you have me doing that stuff, no, like those are the do nots lists. Just like this is the do not cook. Don't cook that recipe. Don't be out after your shows at 4 in the morning. That is a recipe for disaster. You don't need those things. Like there are certain recipes we just don't bake. And I never thought about the recipes of life, but there's something in there for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely something in there. So I love your do not include list. I like to think of those as I make 3 lists. So what can I eliminate, which is
Mhm.
your do not do or do not include? what can I delegate? Yeah.
Yes.
What is not in my zone of genius that I can give to somebody else? To your point earlier, what doesn't bring you joy? What isn't fun? What sucks the life out of you? Like, can you eliminate that? Can you delegate that?
Ugh,
Or the third thing is, what can I automate?
yeah.
So anything that doesn't move the needle, that doesn't fuel me, or that I don't personally have to do, I'm definitely going to examine and automate, delegate, or eliminate, because that allows me to protect my energy. It allows me to protect my peace. It allows me to stay in control of the controllable. It allows me to stay in control of the controllables. And it allows me to focus on my zone of genius. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I think it all ties together and it's
I
super
love the
powerful.
automate part. The automate's huge. And I think for me, automated seemed like I used to have this term. I was like, I'm going to automate all this thing. I'm going to give it to my minions. Da, da, da. And that was very disempowering for me. I was like, why is this not working? And I had a real interesting frame around that, Ellie, where I was talking with my friends and they're like, what is your favorite thing about your company? What do you love doing? I was like, well, I love launching this. And then it came down to it. I go, you know what I really love doing? I love giving people jobs. I love giving people opportunities. Like I didn't have these opportunities. I had to create a lot of my own opportunities. I love being able to offer opportunities to people around the world. I've got a staff of 7 people, and then editors underneath them, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And I get it's for me that was the fulfillment part. And when it comes to automation, I turned that into I was like, wow, we are providing life for these folks. We're providing an opportunity for them to self actualize their dreams. And so I love that you said automation and that there's a bit of a pivot in there for me because you do need automation. You want to scale and you want to grow. You need to make things work when you're not.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that we have that we cannot get more of is time, right? Time is a finite resource. And so the more we can manage the way that we use time, the more that we can ensure that we're using time in a way that serves us, brings us joy and fun and connection and furthers our dreams and empowers us and energizes us, the more that we can use and manage that, the more time, freedom, the more experiences we can have because we're carving out the best use of that time. Where are we wasting our time? Where are the time sucks? And how can we reclaim that time so that we can do the things that we love, to your point, so that you can create opportunity, so that you can create magical moments and experiences, so that you can create memories, so that you can build communities. It all comes from controlling our time
Yeah.
and controlling the best use of our time, which is automate, delegate, or eliminate.
Mm, I like that. That was my mic drop moment. Automate, eliminate, or delegate. Those are such good ones. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I love this. So let's talk about your nonprofit and
Love
why
to.
you started that.
There was a time, I think a lot of us have that time where you're getting things, they start happening for you. You notice that you manifest stuff quicker, that your visions are coming to light. And that started happening for me 5 and 6 years ago. I wasn't like fully embodied in where I'm at now. And then that is always an evolution. But I was noticing that I had this ability to amass incredible humans, like some of the most prolific leaders and entrepreneurs and just like entertainers, even, the people that were coming into my sphere just kept coming and it's not slowing down. And what I noticed that I was feeling was that I had a sense of purpose. And then Shoebox Moses had kind of been born to the world. And so the nonprofit that I always wanted to do, I always wanted to just go back and make an impact with the kids. And I didn't know what that looked like. And then it started to just take shape. And what was really cool is it started to take shape in what I was doing. I realized that, oh, you're a self-taught musician, you're a self-taught DJ, You're a self-taught CEO and you're a self-taught podcast production creator and an exceptionally gifted and fun orator and teacher. So like all these things started to like compile. And so I knew that I had something there. So what can we do with that? And what I noticed is that a lot of the kids that I was teaching, a lot of the, young adults and even like people exiting their companies that are much older, they were all wanting to learn one of these skill sets. They always wanted to learn how to get back to their creative soul. Like, oh my gosh, I want to learn how to do that. I would love to learn how to edit. I'd love to do, but they didn't realize for a young person coming up, not even just from an orphanage, if they could attach themselves to something that they love, their chances of succeeding go up 80 and 90% when they find a career path in it. And there's such easy ways to find somebody that can mentor you or a platform where you can learn to use that skill set to make a living. So the Foundlings, our main mission is to provide creative jobs for children. And so what we've been working on is creating platforms where younger kids in their teens that are aging out of the orphanage, aging out of a foster care system, or aging out of care can go in and find a way to find a creative outlet, a mentor, and learn from them through a self-perpetuated learning model how to make a living doing something that they love so that they can create a life of fulfillment and joy that they may not have ever had by just going the normal route. So there's a couple different prongs that we do. There's simple ways that we have to work. One is we have to provide the sustenance and the basic needs for the orphanage. So we have different tiers where you can just go in and provide school supplies, food, things of that nature. We also have another compartment where a lot of the professionals like Marissa Piers, Vishen Lakiani, and those guys are providing teaching manuals. Like Marissa Piers is putting her I Am Enough teaching in the foundation so that people can access that course and then they can be part of the I Am Enough movement. And that was good and really pivotal for a lot of the instructors that are in those facilities, because sometimes you just go through the motions. You're like, oh my gosh, do these kids, are we going to make a breakthrough? But one of the things that we realized, especially with this message, is I am enough was the first words that they needed to start saying. When you're left and you're like in this, space, like these kids, when they get older, you realize you're like, I was just left here. No one loves me. And so what we wanted to do is find some programs. And that's the second tier is what are the programs that we can put that will give the power to these kids and give the power to the staff? Like I Am Enough. And that was the Marissa Piers part of her rapid transformational therapy. So she puts that in there. And then the third prong of what we're doing is we're working to create super robust and state-of-the-art learning facilities where the kids can go in. They're going to be made out of shipping containers where the kids can go in hands-on and learn how to edit and learn how to make music or learn how to make a podcast or learn how to make a website. And we're putting stations in all of these shipping box shoe containers where kids can learn immersive arts and get mentored to have a future in the creative space. So the Foundlings, started with what are we going to do with impact and really formed when I realized I had just been building this my whole life. And so that's where the Foundlings came from. And that's what we're working to do.
So as we start to wind down, you live an epic life. You live a life that you love, and you're very intentional about not only creating that, but continuing to create it, continuing to live it, continuing to expand and to evolve into its new iterations of what is my life best lived, what would I love, how would I love to continue to grow and live to the fullest. And so there's no question you live a legendary life. You're coming to the end of that life, and it is the life best lived. You have squeezed the juice out of every moment you have. What do you want them to say about you? What do you want to be remembered for?
Ooh, that question. That's always the good one, the juicy one. Hitting me with it, aren't you? I think There's a couple things that I want them to remember. First, I want them to smile huge and remember how much fun and joy that life has to offer and that it was. And what I want them to remember is that they found it in themselves, and then there might have been a little kick in the ass from me that was like, "Yo, you can go do that. You can go and have all of that." That's what I want them to remember, is that you don't have to slave away. You don't have to do something you didn't love to do. You can literally go out and have it all. And it's not going to come like, "Oh, wow, we got it." I have a lot of friends that have, they've exited 7, like 8, 9-figure companies. And they're like, "Man, Sammy, you have encompassed it all. You've helped me remember that you can have it all, and that you can find enjoyment in the mundane, and that enjoyment is in you." I think that probably be the thing that I'd love for them to remember, is that the joy is in them, and that maybe it was something that I inspired them to remember, but I really think it'd be that big smile, like, "Oh man, I remember when he helped me discover that for myself," is to find that joy.
Amazing. Amazing. And as we wrap up, any parting words, anything you'd like to share?
Parting words. There is a philosophy that I love to live by, that I think is something that always kind of encompassed what I do. And the term came from it. It was so funny. It was one of my credos that I love to live by. And then when I moved into my first like shared workspace, which really helped me blossom into this, like the DJ side of things and stuff, it was on this huge metal thing etched above the stairwell. It's so big that I didn't even see it at first, because it was just so blatant in front of me. If you ever seen one of those things, you're like, "Oh my God, that's been there the whole time." That's what this sign says. And it's the thing that I love to live by, Ellie. And it says that person who has mastered life, and I'm kind of thinking of how I can summarize it a little bit. But the master in the art of living leaves little distinction between his work and his play, and his love and his leisure. And it goes on to say more, but he does both with such grace that he lets everybody else wonder whether he's working or playing. So, the master in the art of living is one thing that I would leave with you guys. What is your mastering in the art of living? How are you mastering that today?
So powerful. How are you choosing you? How are you showing up for you? How are you showing up as you? How are you intentionally creating a life that you love that blurs the lines of living and playing? Where are the opportunities? Where are the stolen moments for more joy, more laughter, more love, more fun,
More fun, for
more
sure.
fun? Play more, stress less.
Yeah, I mean, if I said it easy, it'd probably be play more, stress less.
Yeah, play more, stress less. There's a magic that happens when we're playing. There's a magic that happens when you're living in that state of freedom. When you're not in your head, you're in your heart, you're in your body, right? That's when possibilities open. When we're stressed and clenching on to the negative and all the things out of our control, it's so hard to see the forest through the trees, right? It's so hard to see possibility because all you're seeing are challenges or obstacles or things that are bleak or negative. And it's in those moments of joy and laughter and freedom. It's why, when you mentioned earlier that after an inspiring show, you get all these other ideas. It's because when you're at that show, when you're out of your head and into your heart and into the moment and into your body, that you're open. You're open to possibility. You're open to opportunity. You're open to the creativity. And you're not in this box of, well, that won't work. You're not in this box of practical paradigms and
Totally.
limitations. The
Yeah.
world is open.
It's like children. When children play, they're expansive reach for what they want to do, especially from 3 to 5, right? And you're like, what do you want? What do you want to play today? Like, I want to build us our castle, but I want you to have your castle. I'm gonna have my castle. My castle has ponies and yours has dragons, but you can have some of my ponies. Like there's no end to what they think of, and that's what you gotta do. You gotta play. You gotta be expansive with that. I love that so much.
Absolutely. So, if somebody wants to learn more about the Foundlings, or they want to donate to the Foundlings, or otherwise support your organization, how can they do that?
You can get on a plane and go to the Philippines and work with us, but or you can go to the foundlings.org. So, and a foundling is what they call a baby when they've been left. And so they bring them in to the orphanage, or usually it's the hospital first, and then they find themselves into an orphanage. So that's what the foundling means. But if you go to the foundlings.org, that's where you can find out what we're working on next, where we're going, and what we have in store for the next move with the kids. And right now, we are finally being able to go back to the Philippines. So you'll see like there's going to be some temporary projects on hold, stuff like that, that we are just so excited to get back and go to. The last one we did is we outfitted everybody with their shoes and their school classroom supplies and food and things like that for the year. And this year we're going back to really work on the classrooms and work on the curriculum for the kids.
Amazing. So, the foundlings.org is the website where you can find more information and get involved. Now, how can somebody find out more about you and connect with you?
Oh, that's easy. You could just go to shoeboxmoses.com. That's where I'm that's where you can just find music and the tour dates and the things that are going on with me. And then I'm pretty regular on Instagram in the evenings if you want to like reach out. I don't have a huge following yet, but I'm very active. Like everyone that's in that space, like they're all in my primary feed, and I talk to them, because I'm very hands on, and I think you can meet me there. But the shoeboxmoses.com is the easiest place. It has links to everything. Or if you want to find me, it's the same name on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the stuff.
Amazing. Run and connect with Shoebox Moses. He's incredible. Thank you so much for being here. This has been incredibly powerful. Thank you for the joy that you bring to the world. Thank you for the light that you shine into the world. Thank you for reminding us to live every single moment to the fullest.
Thank you. This is what my parents always say. This is what my dad always sends me. Like, this is the I love you. And we always do that whenever I drive off, whenever I see them again. But to you and your listeners, I love you guys. And thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun and such an honor.
Thank you. Till next time.
Till next time.